Hello everyone, hope you're having an outstanding day. This is Scotch checking in with my very first Castle Nathria raid video for normal mode. Thanks for giving this a look. You'll be able to find my Twitch channel and Twitter handle in the description down below. I'd certainly appreciate you stopping by and giving me a follow and subscribing to the channel. Right off the bat, I'd like to give a shout out to the guild Borderline Offensive over on US-Tichondrius Horde side for carrying my very lame hunter through a full clear of Castle Nathria. They tolerated my level 10-esque DPS, and I even managed to snag a few pieces of gear and some legendary memories. Without their tutelage and rock-solid tactics, this video wouldn't have been possible. The mode was set to normal, but I was feeling pretty heroic at the end of the night. To set things up, let's take a quick look at what this raid is comprised of. First of all, there are 10 bosses: Shriekwing, Huntsman Altimore, Sunkings Salvation, Artificer Zymox, Hungering Destroyer, Lady Enerva Darkvein, the Council of Blood, Sludgefist, Stone Legion Generals, and Sire Denathrius. I will say that I thoroughly enjoyed this raid. The amount of trash is minimal throughout the entire instance, travel time between bosses is almost perfect, and the design and feel of the castle is spot on for Vampiric Goth. The fight mechanics also give a good range from tank and spank to oh my god what the is going on. It's a great introductory raid for the expansion and a terrific encapsulation of the zone and the storyline leading up to it. First up on our list of loot pinatas is Shriekwing, a very large blind bat that somehow thinks it's a great idea to engage your raid in a room full of things that can help you jack up his sonar. This is a great fight to ease into the raid, and there's only a couple of mechanics that you need to worry about. First of all, he'll place a red arrow marker above a random player's head. The ability is called Echolocation. If you get this, just run away from everyone else and wait for the bat to come and pounce on your head. His second ability is called Ear-Splitting Shriek. It has a cast time, so get behind one of the pillars in the room and break line of sight. Once he's done, move back in and start going ham again. His third ability is called Blood Shroud. He'll move to the center of the room, and at this point all DPS should stop, and you should position yourselves behind one of the pillars. A few seconds in, he'll create a bunch of echo pulses that slide around the room. Don't get hit by those or you'll be stunned or horrified, and they'll drop blood pools on the floor and they do a lot of damage. Once those are clear, it's back to breaking the line of sight when he shrieks and moving away from the group when you get the echolocation applied to you. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Next up we have Huntsman Altimore, and he certainly just watched you raffle stomp Shriekwing, so he's decided to step up his game and throw in a few more mechanics. Altimore will start with a bear pet at his side. He will need to be off-tanked and stacked very close to the boss, so excess cleave damage will help burn him down. All of our DPS stayed on the boss at the beginning of the fight. The first ability that pops up is that bear pet will mark a raid member with a target arrow. The ability is called Lunge, and whoever has it needs to stay close to the group so it's easier for others to move in and soak the damage when the bear jumps on someone's head. Altimore will also cast a shot called Sin Seeker. You'll know he's about to fire because 3 giant red arrows will appear on the ground at his feet and point at random raid members. The most important thing to do here is, if you're the one targeted, is just stand still and take it like a man, or an orc, or a goblin, or whatever the hell you're playing at that moment. You can't avoid it, and if you run around like a chicken with your head cut off, you'll end up getting other team members shot in the face in the process. No bueno. When the first bear pet dies, Altimore will call his backup bear Barghast. The off-tank will need to pick up Barghast and move him to the other side of the room, far away from the rest of the group. After about 1 minute, Barghast will summon a shade of himself. The off-tank will need to move Barghast away from the shade, and someone with CC abilities will need to keep the shade controlled. It is very important the CC is not broken until it needs to be broken, which is why you want Barghast and the boss as far away as possible. While the shade is not controlled, he emanates Deathly Roar, which is uninterruptible and causes a crap ton of shadow damage to the raid team. Keep him controlled until he gets about 20 stacks of Destabilize. The Shade has a massive amount of health, so he'll need a lot of these destabilized stacks to make him a little easier to kill. Once he hits the desired stack wall, all DPS needs to switch to him and burn him down as fast as possible. After Barghast becomes the latest pelt to adorn your non-existent player housing floor, Altimore will call his third bear buddy Hecutus. He will need to be kited around the room and constantly moving. If he's allowed to stand still, he'll amass stacks of crushing stone, which will increase his physical damage done by 25% per stack. The off-tank will keep kiting Hecutus, and everyone else should be finishing off the boss. The last ability that you should worry about is Petrifying Howl. If you're marked with it, just take it to the edge of the room, away from everyone else, and then get out of the mess it drops as quickly as you can. Manage all of that, and you'll be marching your way deeper into the castle. Next, you'll move on to the Hungering Destroyer. He's a little more straightforward than Altimore is, so if you had no problems whittling down Nathria's excess bear population, then this guy shouldn't be too much of an issue for you. You'll want your melee to stack behind the boss, and your range to stack together as well. The first ability you will see is called Volatile Ejection. If you're targeted with this, move away from your group and let the beam of whatever the hell he's throwing up on you to land well away from everyone else. He'll also cast Expunge on random members. Handle it the same way you did Volatile Ejection, and move away from everyone else. The Destroyer will also be casting Gluttonous Miasma on people. You will not be able to receive any healing while you have this dot, but if you're stacked like you're supposed to be, the leech effect that it also applies will lessen for everyone else that's within 5 yards of you. It lasts about 25 seconds, so you just have to weather it and let it drop off on its own. The next big ability is called Consume. Everyone will want to get as far away from the Destroyer as possible. You'll see the giant blue circle that you have to get outside of. If you're not far enough away, you will die because he's literally sucking the life out of you. Rinse and repeat, and destroy the Destroyer. Your next target will be Lady Anerva Darkvein. She needs a hobby, really badly. Preferably one that doesn't involve shoving her daggers in your eye sockets. Once you clear the trash from her room, you'll notice 4 large red anima canisters located to her right and left. You'll want 2 well-coordinated ranged DPS to handle those canisters. Darkvein's powers are augmented by the anima in those reserves, and you'll want to minimize the raid damage that each does. So you'll want to click on them and release them when they each hit about 30% capacity. Darkvein will also throw bottled anima to a random spot on the floor. One player will need to catch or soak this when it hits. If no one is there to soak it, Unleashed Volatility will do a massive amount of damage to the raid, so pay attention and get someone in that red circle. Darkvein will also cast something called Sins of the Past. This will target 3 players and will be linked by a red anima chain. During this ability, 3 red orbs will appear randomly at points on the floor. The 3 players that are affected by Sins will need to position one of their chains through one of the orbs to dissipate them. The other major ability of hers to be concerned with is called Concentrated Anima. This will target 1 player, and that player needs to get close enough to the boss so it's easier to burn down the ad that spawns once the debuff drops. The ad is called a Harnessed Spectre and needs to be killed ASAP. Once down, focus back on Darkvein. Boom. Just like that, one more of Denathrius' sister wives is down for the count. The next encounter is one designed to make the healers understand that they don't have enough to do by just keeping everyone else alive, so now they have to heal the boss as well. The boss in question is one captured Kael'thas Sunstrider, hence the name of the encounter, Sunkings Salvation. To be honest, this fight was a little chaotic for me, but I did what I was told and survived to tell the tale. Basically, there are 2 phases to this fight, and Phase 2 happens when Kael'thas' health hits 45% and 90%. Phase 1 is just managing the various ads that pop up all over the place. Kill them all in a prioritized order, dealing with the rock-bound vanquishers first. Just shoot and ask questions later. Your healers will be keeping you alive and throwing heals to Kael'thas as well. There are also 4 canisters of anima at the base of the platform while Kael'thas is chained. Non-healers can also click on these to help heal him. Just be forewarned that the longer you channel, the more damage you take. Once his health hits 45% and 90%, Kael'thas will manifest a shade of Kael'thas. When this happens, the bound Kael'thas cannot receive any healing from the players, but he will receive healing based on the damage done to the shade. The shade needs to be kited around the back of the room. Players need to be stacked behind him at all times, and avoid standing in the smoldering remnants that drop. And because it's Kael'thas, 2 reborn Phoenix ads will spawn. They should not be allowed to reach the players they target, and should be burned down as quickly as possible. If they reach the group, they'll also be dropping smoldering remnants and doing AoE damage to the team as well. Just shoot them till they don't squawk no more. Once the shade reaches 45% health, he'll despawn and you can move back into Phase 1 material. When he spawns the second time, or when Kael'thas is at 90% health, kill him and the fight will be over. Next up we have Artificer Zymox. Be honest, You've been wanting to kill at least one or two of these dudes since you were first introduced in Shadowlands. Well, now's your chance. Zymox will regularly target 2 players with Dimensional Tear. While this debuff will do damage to those afflicted with it, as well as anyone within 6 yards of the target, they also create portals at the feet of the player after 8 seconds. These portal locations are crucial to surviving the other mechanics of the fight. One player will want to drop their portal close enough for melee to hop in, while the second player will want to run their portal as far away from the group as possible. In phases 1 and 2, Zymox will be summoning fleeting spirits. These things are stupid fast. You will most likely not be able to outrun them. What you can do, however, is use the portals that have been conveniently dropped for you and just hop into them and let the spirits chase you for 11 seconds. After 11 seconds, they despawn. You'll also be dealing with Seeds of Extinction. There are several that spawn around the room, and players must pick them up and hop through the portal to the far side of the room. Drop them and hop back. When they explode, they deal an enormous amount of damage to anyone within 50 yards. As long as they've been portaled correctly, everyone should be fine. Miss one and it wipes the raid. You'll also want to be avoiding the Rift Blasts, large beams of white energy that will deck anything caught in the crossfire. The third phase has old Matchstick summoning Annihilate in the center of the room. This will suck players into it. However, if portals have been properly placed, players can wait until the last second before the explosion and portal to a safe distance of 25 plus yards. The explosion does over 200k damage, so you don't need me to tell you not to get caught in it. That's it. That's the fight. Learn to love portals and collect your loot. The next encounter is the Council of Blood. And let me just preface this fight by being bold and stating it to be the best thing to happen to raiding since the Corrupted Blood incident back in 2005. I'm serious. This fight is awesome. Sure, there's a crap ton of ad management and all 3 bosses are narcissistic pricks that need to be bludgeoned to death repeatedly, but hey, who doesn't run into someone like that every day in trade chat, am I right? No, this fight has dancing, and it is raid design perfection. The 3 bosses in this encounter are Baroness Frida, Castellan Nicholas, and Lord Stavros. This was also the kill order that our raid chose to execute as well. Frida first, then Niklaus, and then finally Stavros. You'll be engaging all 3 simultaneously, so be sure to settle on a kill order and stick with it. They each cause several problems based on their abilities, so know your team and choose the right order for your raid composition. This fight will appear to be extremely chaotic on your first go-through. Here are the big picture items that you need to know about. First of all, Stavros casts an ability on 2 players called Dark Recital. These 2 players need to move away from everyone else and get within 8 yards of their marked partner to cancel the effect. As the partners move, the debuff also drops a ground AoE that will deal significant damage to anyone in it, so move away from the group as quickly as you can. Also of note is that each boss will summon various adds that have to be dealt with. The Dutiful Attendant is top priority when he spawns. He will move swiftly to the weakest boss and shield them. As long as he lives, the boss can't be damaged. You'll also need to know that when one boss hits 50% health, everyone will have to dance the night away. Dance? What do you mean dance? Yeah, that's right. Put on your dancing shoes, baby. Now don't freak out. You don't have to type any emotes or do anything crazy. When the Dance Macabre intermission hits, you'll need to identify the large pillar of light between you and somewhere else in the room. Players will only be able to see their columns of light. You have 8 seconds to get there. If you don't, you die. When you do get there, a bunch of NPCs will spawn and begin to dance. All you have to do is mirror their movements, which consist of forward, backward, left, and right. That's it. No moonwalk, no funky chicken, no water sprinkler, no Tootsie Roll. Just do what they do. After the intermission, you go back to killing ads and wailing away on a boss. When one boss dies, the remaining bosses will be healed to full and gain new abilities based on how many other bosses are dead. The biggest part of this fight is keeping the ads under control, and preferably dead. It is real easy to be overrun, so don't forget to... Oh no, did another boss hit 50% health? Sorry about that. As I was saying, don't forget to prioritize the ads. Attendants first, veteran stone guards second, waiters last. It'll seem messy at first, but it's fun as hell. You're almost there, just 3 bosses left. This next guy is good old-fashioned DPS check. The mechanics are really straightforward, yet unforgivable. One wrong move and you're dead. Yes, Sludgefist is a Class A jerk of the highest order. Positioning is key in this fight. Everything this guy does can be mitigated, nullified, healed through if melee stay with the tank and the range stay with one person that can navigate the room without too much of a problem. And by stay with, I mean stack on top of each other. Become friends. Become family. Weather those did she just touch me there moments. Stay stacked and move accordingly. As the raid lead said in our campaign, I don't care if you don't like where I go, you go with me anyway. Here are the abilities that you need to worry about. First up we have Chain Link. This will pair random players with steel chains. These players will be marked with a red arrow above their heads. The chaining does mediocre damage as long as the 2 players stay within 12 yards of each other. This is also another reason you want to stay stacked. If they get too far apart, the chains shatter and will probably kill both players. The next big one, and probably most important, is Hateful Gaze. Sludgefist will target a location of one of the tanks and get ready to charge. The tank's job is to position one of the 4 pillars in the room between themselves and the boss. When Sludgefist hits the pillar, it'll be destroyed, but he'll be stunned for 12 seconds and take 100% more damage. This is the time to put the pedal to the metal and rev up that DPS. You want him dead before he hits the 4th pillar. Consider that his enrage. If he has no pillars to hit, he'll hit the wall and most likely wipe the raid to the massive raid-wide damage that happens from collapsing foundation. He'll also do an AoE stomp that'll knock players back. Range shouldn't have to deal with this much, but just regroup if you do get the knockback effect. He'll also cast Falling Rubble frequently. This is another reason why stacking is so important. You'll need to be constantly moving out of the permanent AoE effect that the rubble leaves behind. Not only does it do damage, it also slows players 25%. I will admit, however, that I died during one of these during the first attempt on this boss, and death has a funny way of showing you strange visions. You heard it here first that Disney is making a move on Activision Blizzard. So remember, stay stacked, keep moving, kill him right after or before he hits the 4th pillar. Get your loot and head up to face the Stone Legion generals. Now these 2 jackasses couldn't die quick enough. Admittedly, this is probably my least favorite fight in this entire raid. The only silver lining here is that you finally get to put General Call 6 feet under after chasing her forever through the dungeon's sanguine depths. I suppose theoretically this fight is pretty simple, but there is a lot going on and everyone has to be paying attention to multiple things at the same time. Hopefully I won't muck up this explanation, as I was truly a hapless hunter and running around most of the time firing randomly, hoping like hell I was hitting bad guys and not my teammates. Here are some of the things you need to be concerned with. You'll start by dealing with General Call alone. Greyshaw will stay airborne. He'll be throwing stone spikes at players for minor damage and slowing them down for a few seconds. It's mostly just a pain in the buttocks and not a threat. He'll also be casting something called Crystallize about every minute. If you get this on you, move close to the boss and cover the tank, because step 2 of this ability involves a crystalline burst. This will do AoE damage, but it also removes bleed effects on players. If you have Serrated Tear or Wicked Laceration, you need to hop into this and get it cleared off of you. If you don't have a bleed, stay far away from this circle. Step 3 of this occurs immediately after Crystalline Burst. The original player that got marked with Crystallize will now be marked with Pulverizing Meteor. Everyone that's close enough should move in and help soak the damage. If you don't, that player will be deleted and will probably rage quit and take half the guild bank with them. While you're dealing with all the drama Grishal is throwing your way, General Call will also be trying to rend and maim everyone around him. It makes one miss the old loofahs that First Aid could make. They'd come in handy in this fight. Call would also be throwing Wicked Blades at random players, which will be applying the stackable aforementioned Wicked Lacerations. When Call reaches 50% health, she'll activate Stone Form and reduce incoming damage by 95%. This is where Prince Renathal comes into the picture. Oh, you didn't know he was still there? Yes. Like many NPCs before him, he is casually stunned for the first part of the fight, waiting for you to rescue him, and then taking credit for the victory later on. What a schmuck. Anyway, while Call is in stone form, red animal orbs will be dropping off adds as you kill them. You need to be taking these orbs over to Renathal so he can regain enough strength to knock Call out of stone form. Oh, and this awesome ability of his does damage to the raid group and knocks you back, so don't be standing too close to the edge of the platform. It's a long way down to the bottom of the DPS charts, which, ironically, is where I was anyway. So here we are in Phase 2. The adds are dead, the boss is taking normal damage again, and Renathal tried to help by almost killing everyone. Now that you know who your friends really are, Call will be in the air this time, and Gershal will be on the ground trying to kick you in the face. Call will be casting Wicked Blades and Ricocheting Shuriken, which will bounce and hit 3 other nearby players. Meanwhile, Gershal will perform 2 abilities called Seismic Upheaval and Reverberating Eruption. Seismic Upheaval will track players and erupt after 4 seconds. Simply stay ahead of the tracking circles and don't get caught in the eruption, and don't track it into another player or players. Reverberating Eruption will be cast on 1 player, and that person needs to move away from the group and drop the debuff. This will become an AoE zone called Unstable Ground. These will eventually erupt on their own and cause Echoing Annihilation, which needs to be soaked by someone, so it doesn't do raid-wide damage. The soaking player will also receive a debuff called Reverberating Vulnerability, which prevents them from soaking more than 1 zone. Easy peasy so far, am I right? Right. Now when Gershal hits 50% health, he will also cast Stone Form and reduce damage taken by 95%. You'll handle this phase the same as you did with Call. Kill the adds, and take the orbs to the wannabe hero Renathal. Remember, he'll knock you back when he shatters Gershal's Stone Form, so don't be close to the edge. Phase 3 will begin when Gershal's Storm Form is shattered, so be sure to get the adds cleaned up quick, as Call will descend and you'll have to deal with both bosses at the same time. Keep them stacked together. You'll want them to die within a few seconds of each other. If you don't, they have a nasty enrage mechanic that allows the living one to do 100% increased damage. No lie, there is a lot going on here. It just takes practice, but I'm told by better players than me that overall the fight isn't that bad, so what do I know? Well, congratulations. You've made it this far. 1 dude left. The sire of smugness. The denizen of douchebaggery. The herald of haughtiness. Old Denathrius himself. Legend has it that Denathrius is one of the more simple end bosses of introductory raids, especially compared to eons past. I think I would agree with that. There is seemingly a lot going on, but it's not nearly as chaotic as the Council of Blood or even the Stone Legion Generals. It's also a pretty stunning fight visually. You'll need to divide your group into 2 teams, each with a tank. As we orchestrated it, each group stayed with their tanks through most of the first half of the fight. There will be 2 abilities you'll need to watch out for. Ravage is cast by Denathrius' sword Remornia. Remornia is kind of psychotic, clearly has daddy issues, and is certainly not as family-friendly as Toontown's Frank Sinatra-esque singing sword. It makes you wonder whose warped, twisted soul is empowering that thing. I guess that's a tale for another time, however. Back to the fight. So Remornia will cast Ravage, and you need to get out of the red crap on the ground ASAP. It also leaves behind a Desolation Pool. Don't stand in that either. The second ability is Cleansing Pain. Each team will want to take turns taking the Carnal Hint, because it'll cleanse Burden of Sin. It will also spawn adds called Echoes of Sin. They'll need to be gunned down immediately. Once they're dead, fall back up on your tanks and continue sussing up Denathrius' hair. He really hates it when you do that. Once he hits 70% health, he'll begin to cast March of the Penitent, which will suck in all players and knock them back to the outer wall. You'll want to make it to within 16 yards of the Denathrius to get cleansed. If you don't, you'll die. Survive that, and the center of the room opens up, and you'll be dropped down to another level to continue the fight into Phase 2. Why drop down? Because every expansion needs a boss that shatters a floor or opens a trap door. If your stomach doesn't get lodged into your throat at some point, then you're doing it wrong. So in Phase 2, you'll have more adds to deal with, including the sword Remornia. The off-tank will want to position the sword near Denathrius, so cleave damage can impact it as well. The Crimson Kabbalists need to be killed first, and you want to try to make Denathrius hit the adds and not the raid with an ability called Racking Pain. It does a lot of damage and increases damage taken for about 25 seconds. You'll also want to run out of the Hand of Destruction ability and move away from others when you get targeted with Impale, as it will bounce around and hit other players. There are clear markers on the ground to tell you when you're safe. By far, the coolest thing that shows up in Phase 2 and 3 is the Massacre ability by Remornia. She really goes bonkers and begins to cast giant red lines crisscrossing the entire room. You don't want to be caught in those cut lines. This part relies a little on luck because there are a lot of lines that spawn. Make sure to avoid getting hit before you worry about DPSing Denathrius again. It is a very cool looking effect though. These abilities, including the ad spawns, will continue throughout Phase 2. When Denathrius hits 40% health, you'll be moving into Phase 3. Phase 3 becomes a DPS check because you'll want to have him dead as soon as you can. Finish off any ads left over from Phase 2, hopefully they'll all be gone for you, and get ready to adapt to 3 new abilities from Denathrius. Immediately upon hitting 40%, Denathrius will cast Indignation, which will cut off the outer portion of the encounter area, including the walkways to the mirrors. It essentially makes the combat area a little smaller, as well as your room for error. You'll notice that Denathrius is now wielding Remornia and will begin utilizing Fatal Finesse and Shattering Pain. Move away from others when targeting with Fatal Finesse and don't get caught near the edges when Shattering Pain is cast or you'll get knocked off. To top it all off, Denathrius will also be casting Sinister Reflection, which is an image of himself. The image will cast either Massacre or Ravage. Remember, dodge the massive red crisscrossing lines from Massacre and move quickly to the area of the room not impacted by Ravage. Don't be a dope like me and die to the last Ravage. He had about 50k health left when I died. It was very embarrassing. Ravage will cover about 25% of the combat area, so if Denathrius isn't dead after 3 Ravages, you're probably going to all die. But I have faith in you. So you're going to stomp a mud hole in that old cur of a mangy dog and walk it dry. Collect your loot and steal all of his best hair care products. That's it, kids. Like I said, one hell of a good time raid-wise. Very enjoyable and a great introduction to the raid scene for Shadowlands. Let's hope that this continues as we get ready to move into patch 9.1, whenever that'll be. Once again, this is Scotch, one half of Sourmash and Scotch, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. You can find me over on Twitch at Sourmash and Scotch. Don't be a stranger there either. Give me a follow and feel free to pop into the stream whenever you'd like. If you like what you see, no one will chastise you for subscribing as well. Everyone have a great morning, afternoon, evening, or night, and I'll catch you next time.